Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to cut through the noise, get straight to the essential facts. Today, we're diving headfirst into a topic that gets a lot of searches, a lot of whispers, but maybe not enough open, evidence-based discussion. We're talking about penis pumps, or more formally, vacuum erection devices, right? You see the advertising, right? It can be incredibly bold, promising, well, everything from instant boosts to, permanent changes, but what does the science actually say? Where's the medical truth versus the marketing sizzle?
Yeah, and that's a really critical distinction to make, especially because, many individuals, they see those promises and they go out and buy these things without ever talking to a doctor or nurse practitioner. There's also a pretty big gap between their legitimate medical uses and just, common misconceptions. So our mission today really is to bridge that gap for you, to unpack what the science truly says, separate the proven facts from some of the, let's say, misleading hype.
Okay, perfect. So to kick things off, maybe just a quick recap on the basics. For anyone who's maybe new to this or just wants to be sure they understand, what exactly is a penis pump and how does it work? How does it achieve its effect?
Right. So fundamentally, a vacuum erection device, or VED, has three main parts. You've got a clear plastic cylinder, then there's a pump that can be manual, like squeezing a handle, or battery operated, and finally there's a constriction ring, sometimes called a tension ring. The process itself is pretty straightforward. The cylinder goes over the penis, snug against the body, then you use the pump manually or battery-powered to create a vacuum inside that cylinder. And this negative pressure, it effectively draws blood into the penis, into the erectile tissues, causing an erection. Once the erection is firm enough, you slide that constriction ring off the cylinder and down onto the base of the penis.
Okay, so the ring keeps the blood there.
Exactly. It acts like a tourniquet, essentially, restricting the blood flow out of the penis, which maintains the erection.
So it's basically a mechanical way to get blood in and keep it there.
Wow.
And these aren't exactly brand new tech, are they? It feels like the concept's been around a while.
Oh, absolutely not new. The basic idea, using a vacuum for erections, that dates back to the 1960s, believe it or not. What's really changed over the decades is the engineering and, importantly, the safety features. Modern devices, especially the medical-grade ones, now often include things like pressure gauges, safety release valves, features that just weren't there in the early days. Makes them much safer, much more reliable.
Right. Okay, now let's just cut straight to it. The question, I imagine, is probably top of mind for a lot of people, especially given some of that aggressive marketing we see online. Do these devices actually lead to a permanent increase in size? Does using a pump make you, bigger permanently?
Yeah, that's the big one, isn't it? And the answer, based on solid science, is a clear no. No permanent size increase. What penis pumps do is create temporary engorgement. That's the key word, temporary. The vacuum pulls not just blood, but also some lymphatic fluid into the penile tissues. This makes the penis appear larger and feel firmer, sure. And this is the crucial part, this effect only lasts as long as the device is used, and that constriction ring is in place. Once you take the ring off, blood flow normalizes, the extra fluid dissipates, and the penis returns to its usual size pretty quickly. Despite what some, less than scrupulous marketing might claim, there's just no reliable scientific evidence supporting permanent gains. So it's really important to manage expectations there.
Okay, that's crystal clear. Temporary effect, not permanent change. So we know what they don't do long term. Let's pivot then to where they do have a legitimate and often quite powerful role in medicine. Beyond the hype, what does the actual research tell us about how effective they are for medical use, specifically thinking about erectile dysfunction, or ED?
Right. And this is where the story gets really interesting and, frankly, quite positive. The data is genuinely encouraging. When used correctly for ED, studies consistently show that penis pumps can help men achieve an erection suitable for intercourse about 90% of the time. 90%. That's a very high success rate.
Wow, 90%? That's actually higher than I might have guessed. How does that compare to, say, the pills like Viagra?
It compares very favorably. In fact, some research suggests that, purely in terms of achieving an erection, pumps might be slightly more effective than oral medications for some men. It often surprises people.
That is surprising. So, okay, 90% effective at getting an erection. That's impressive.
Right.
But is user satisfaction equally high? Does it feel the same? What's the nuance there?
That's the perfect follow-up question. Because there is a nuance. While they're highly effective at, let's say, the mechanical part creating the erection, the satisfaction rates reported by users and their partners tend to be a bit more modest. Typically in the range of, say, 60 to 80%, depending on the study. Why the gap? Well, it often comes down to the quality or the sensation of the erection. It can feel Yeah. Different. Some men report it feels cooler to the touch because it's venous blood primarily filling this space. And the base of the penis, where the ring sits, that often remains softer than the shaft itself. Some couples initially describe it as feeling a bit mechanical or less natural.
Okay, so less spontaneous, maybe.
Less spontaneous, perhaps a different sensation. But what's interesting here is that many couples adapt really well over time. With practice, with open communication, they often get used to the difference. It becomes less of an issue. It's a bit like learning any new skill, maybe initially awkward but gets smoother.
That's a helpful way to think about it. Okay, so they're effective, but with maybe a different feel. That naturally brings us to safety. With something that's, mechanically manipulating blood flow, what are the real risks? What do people absolutely need to know to use these safely?
Safety is absolutely paramount. And this is where things can go wrong, especially with improper use or, frankly, with cheaply made, unregulated devices. The most common side effects are usually pretty minor and temporary. Things like some bruising, maybe some temporary numbness, or you might see little red spots called petechiae. Those are just tiny burst capillaries under the skin. Usually they clear up on their own without issue. But the more concerning risks, the ones we really need to highlight, come from using the device incorrectly.
And what does incorrectly mean in this context? What are the big no-nos?
Two main things: leaving the constriction ring on for too long and using excessive vacuum pressure. The medical guideline is very clear. The constriction ring should never be left on for more than 30 minutes at a time. 30 minutes is the absolute maximum. Leaving it on longer severely restricts blood circulation, which can lead to pain, numbness, and potentially even permanent tissue damage or nerve damage. You're essentially starving the tissue of oxygen. The other danger is using too much suction pressure, especially with those cheap pumps you might find online that don't have a pressure gauge or a safety release valve. Cranking up the pressure too high can cause internal bleeding, damage to blood vessels, or even, in really severe cases, rupture of the penile tissues. It sounds extreme, but it can happen.
Wow. So tissue damage from the ring being on too long and vessel damage or worse from too much pressure.
Exactly. And I've unfortunately seen cases in my clinic, guys come in with significant bruising, looks like a really bad hickey covering the whole shaft, often because they bought some uncalibrated device online with no way to control or limit the pressure. So if you're using one and you feel intense pain or pain that lasts or persistent numbness or see significant dark bruising or discoloration, those are red flags. Stop immediately. That's your body telling you something's wrong. Seek medical advice if it's severe or doesn't resolve quickly.
That really drives home the point about quality, doesn't it? Which leads me to ask, not all pumps are created equal, are they? There must be a big difference between a medical device and something from, say, a novelty shop.
Oh, a huge difference. Absolutely. You've hit on a critical point. There's a world of difference between an FDA-approved, medical-grade vacuum erection device and the many unregulated products floating around, especially online or in adult stores. Medical-grade devices have undergone rigorous testing for safety and effectiveness. They use body-safe materials. They have reliable pressure mechanisms, often with those crucial safety features like pressure gauges and quick-release valves. They also usually come with clear instructions and often better customer support or warranties. It's about reliability and, most importantly, safety. Many cheaper, unregulated models, they might cut corners on materials, the seals might fail, the pressure could be dangerously high or inconsistent. There's just less quality control.
So the advice is to look for something that's explicitly medical grade or FDA approved.
Definitely. Look for FDA approval or clearance if you're in the U.S., or the equivalent medical device certification elsewhere. Look for pressure gauges, safety releases, clear instructions, and buy from a reputable manufacturer or medical supplier. And, if a device is making claims that sound way too good to be true, promising permanent growth or defying physics, that's probably a pretty good sign it's not a legitimate medical device. Buyer beware.
Okay, that makes sense. So thinking about the legitimate medical uses, who are these devices particularly helpful for? Which groups of men tend to benefit the most?
They're particularly beneficial for a few key groups. First, men with ED who maybe can't take the oral medications like Viagra or Cialis. This could be due to heart conditions, or maybe they're taking nitrates or other medications that interact dangerously. For them, a pump can be a great alternative. Second, they're incredibly valuable for penile rehabilitation, especially after treatments for prostate cancer like surgery or radiation therapy. Using a pump regularly after treatment can help maintain tissue health, prevent shrinkage, and potentially speed up the return of natural erectile function. It's almost like physical therapy for the penis in that context. And third, it's not just about older men. They can benefit men of various ages, including younger guys who might experience ED due to psychological factors like performance anxiety. Having a reliable method can sometimes help break that cycle.
Interesting. Okay, let's tackle some common myths head on. How about a quick fire true or false round?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right, true or false? Penis pumps can add permanent inches to your size.
False. Emphatically false. Any size increase is temporary engorgement due to fluid, not actual tissue growth.
Okay, true or false? They're only for older men.
False. As we just discussed, they benefit men across various age groups and for different reasons, including post-treatment rehab and psychological ED in younger men.
Right. True or false? You absolutely cannot use them if you're also taking ED medications like Viagra.
Actually, false. That's a common misconception. Many men find that combining therapies using a pump, perhaps alongside a low dose of an oral medication, can give them the best results. It's often done under medical guidance, of course.
Good to know. And finally, true or false? Penis pumps can cure erectile dysfunction.
False. This is a really important distinction. They treat this symptom effectively. They help achieve an erection. But they don't cure the underlying cause of the ED. Whether that cause is vascular, neurological, hormonal, or psychological, the pump manages the symptom. It doesn't fix the root problem. That needs separate investigation and treatment.
That's a critical point. Symptom management, not cure. Now, thinking beyond just the physical mechanics, ED obviously has a wider impact. What about the psychological side of things?
Oh, absolutely. You can't separate the physical from the psychological when it comes to sexual health. Erectile dysfunction can take a real toll on a man's confidence, his self-esteem, his relationships, his overall mental well-being. It can lead to anxiety, depression, withdrawal. So for many men, having a reliable method like a pump, something that allows them to be sexually active again, can be incredibly empowering. It can significantly improve quality of life, restore intimacy, boost confidence. That's a huge positive.
But are there potential psychological downsides too?
There can be, yes. For some, there might be a risk of becoming psychologically dependent on the device, maybe feeling like they can't perform without it, even if the underlying issues could be treated. Others might feel self-conscious about the mechanics of it all, needing to prepare the device, the potential lack of spontaneity that could, ironically, create a different kind of performance anxiety for some men or their partners. So it's really important to see these devices as one tool in a bigger toolbox for sexual health. And the psychological impact, positive or negative, can really vary from person to person. Communication with a partner is key here too.
Makes sense. Okay, shifting to the practicalities, what's the typical cost we're talking about for a decent medical-grade device? And is there any chance insurance might cover it?
Yeah, good question. For a quality medical-grade vacuum erection device, you're typically looking at a price range of somewhere between, say, $300 to $500. And here's something that often surprises people. Yes, insurance can cover them. When prescribed by a doctor specifically for treating diagnosed erectile dysfunction, many insurance plans, including Medicare in the U.S., often classify VEDs as durable medical equipment, or DME, just like they might cover a CPAP machine for sleep apnea or diabetic supplies. So it's definitely worth checking with your insurance provider if you get a prescription. Don't just assume it's an out-of-pocket cost.
That's really valuable information, $300 to $500, but potentially covered. Good to know. So wrapping things up for our listeners who might be considering this, maybe they've tried other things or can't take pills, what's your single most crucial piece of advice? What are the next steps and any final red flags?
The single most crucial piece of advice, and I can't stress this enough, is talk to a healthcare provider first before you buy anything. Why? Because ED isn't always just ED. It can often be the first sign of a more serious underlying health problem. Heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, hormonal issues. Getting a proper diagnosis is essential, not just for treating the ED, but for your overall health. A doctor can rule out these conditions or get you started on treatment for them. If, after that consultation, a pump seems like a good option for you, then the advice is start slowly. Read and follow the instructions very carefully. Never exceed the 30-minute limit for the constriction ring. Never use excessive pressure. More is definitely not better here. And as we discussed, invest in a quality, preferably FDA-approved device from a reputable source. Don't cheap out on something this important. Again, communicate openly with your partner. Manage expectations together. Make it part of your shared intimacy, not some hidden or awkward thing.
Okay, talk to a doctor first. That's the main takeaway. Are there specific people who should be extra cautious or maybe avoid pumps altogether?
Yes, definitely some red flags. Men who are taking blood-thinning medications like warfarin or some of the newer ones need to be particularly cautious because the vacuum can increase the risk of bruising or bleeding. Discuss it with your doctor. Also, individuals with certain conditions like sickle cell disease or other blood clotting disorders, or specific penile conditions like severe Peyronie's disease, where there's significant curvature or scarring, should absolutely consult their doctor before even considering a pump. It could potentially worsen their condition or cause serious complications. And just to reiterate, if you do start using one and experience significant pain, prolonged numbness, skin breakdown, or any other really concerning symptoms, stop using it immediately and get medical advice. Listen to your body.
Excellent advice. So let's quickly summarize. Penis pumps, genuinely effective for ED, helping achieve erections in a high percentage of cases, but crucially, any side effects are temporary, not permanent. Safety is absolutely vital and depends heavily on using the device correctly, especially ring time and pressure, and choosing a quality medical-grade product. And they can be a really valuable tool, particularly for men who can't use other treatments or as part of rehab, but always best explored under medical guidance. Does that sound right?
That sums it up perfectly. Couldn't have said it better myself. And maybe just a final thought for you to consider. Remember that sexual health is a really important part of your overall health and well-being. There should be no shame or stigma in seeking help for ED or any other sexual concern. If you do explore using a pump, manage your expectations realistically, put safety first always, and remember that good sexual health involves communication, realistic goals, and looking at the whole person, mind, and body. It's not just about the mechanics.
That's a fantastic note to end on, addressing the whole person. Thank you so much for breaking all that down for us today. And thank you, our listeners, for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this gives you useful information to discuss further with trusted health professionals if needed. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.